and that was a BS3 variant. At that time we liked it, but it still had a lot of issues which were ironed out in the next model, which was a BS4 model. But to be honest, BS4 was still not a perfect motorcycle, and a few years later Royal Enfield launched the BS6 variant, and when it did and when we tested it, we really liked it because it didn't really feel like it was an updated model of the BS3. It felt like a brand new motorcycle. But even the BS6 variant had one major issue which a lot of Indian consumers didn't like, and that was the poor highway cruising speed. Now, we are in 2023. There is a new Royal Enfield Himalayan. Now, let me come up and tell you about the bike in detail. But before that, you should know that this new Himalayan, everything on this bike is brand new. I'm talking about a brand new engine. I'm talking about the brand new mainframe, the subframe, swing arm. Even the electronics and features on the bike is brand new. But there are a few things that have been carried forward from the older Himalayan. That is obviously the name, and secondly some design elements like the frame that you see here. Now, the reason they have done this is because they really wanted to carry some legacy of the older Himalayan to the new one, and to be honest, it's a great call. Now, before we proceed,
Royal Enfield always likes to keep things simple regarding the overall styling of their motorcycle, be it the Classic or the Hunter or even the Interceptor for that matter. The design language has clean lines and doesn't shout aggression. With the new Himalayan, the brand has stuck to the rugged and the versatile roots of the Himalayas. Yes, the design approach is unique, but it still borrows some of the design cues from the Himalayan-411, like the circular headlamp and the metal frame that connects the fuel tank to the headlamp unit. The fascia has a most rugged touch, thanks to the presence of the 21-inch front wheel and the long beak. While the windscreen is average sized, it still adds decent mass to the motorcycle. The side angle is where I spend most of the time appreciating the motorcycle. The giant fuel tank, the exposed chassis tubes, the compact exhaust and the spoke wheels all gives the bike a sense of a really large motorcycle. The rear of the Himalayan-450 has the most interesting design for two reasons. The turn indicators also act as a tail light, and the rear mudguard has minor styling inspiration from the Hunter 350. You should know that the overall fit and finish of the bike is extremely good, something I have never seen on any other Royal Enfield products. The new Himalayan is available in a total of 5 colors. The Casa Brown, which is the base variant. Then there is the Himalayan Salt, Poppy Blue, Hanley Black and the Comet White. The Casa Brown and the Comet White are matte finishes, whereas the rest of the other paint schemes are gloss. The Himalayan 452 is a most modern motorcycle in Royal Enfield's lineup today. And that's because there's a lot of modern equipment that has gone into making this ADV long distance touring friendly. The highlight of this section is the 4-inch circular instrument cluster. Now this unit is TFT and it shows all the colors. The format and the design of this console have been done keeping the long distance as well as city riding in mind. Other than showing the usual ride details like odometer, fuel level and gear shift indicators, there is a section that offers navigation, ambient temperature and riding modes. This cluster also shows information in analog and digital format by using the mode button on the switchgear. Plus, in case there's a need to adjust the brightness of the screen, that can be done as well. There's also a compass which looks pretty damn cool while going off-road. Now, all these selections must be done using a toggle switch and a home button which is placed on the left side of the switchgear. To change the riding modes, Royal Enfield has given the bike a new mode button on the right side of the switchgear. This bike is also equipped with LED lights throughout. The headlamp gets 2 LED lights, the turn indicators are sleek ones, and as mentioned before, the turn indicators also have to do the job of the brake lights. A total of 4 riding modes have been provided on the motorcycle: Eco with ABS on, Eco with ABS off, Performance with ABS on, and Performance with ABS off. As the name suggests, the Eco mode drops the performance to provide accessible performance and provide better fuel efficiency, whereas the Performance mode gives out all the 40 bhp power available. The ABS off means the rear wheel can be locked up and some action-packed slides can be done. Other than these features, the Himalayan 452 gets ride-by-wire, hazard lights, adjustable seats, Type-C charging port, and non-adjustable Showa front forks as standard. Sadly, the knuckle guards don't come as standard, which, to be honest, is a poor call by Royal Enfield.
Now that we have talked about the overall styling and the design elements of the Himalayan in detail, it is time to talk about another important aspect of the motorcycle, and that is the overall seating comfort and the overall riding comfort. We will start with the seating comfort first. Now, you should know that the Himalayan 450 gets main stand as a standard. I'm just gonna put the bike on the main stand. There you go. Now, what I really like about the motorcycle is the wide handlebar, the rider's seat, which has so much space. It has lots of space to move around, and if you look at the foot pegs, it's slightly rear set, but when you look at the overall seating triangle, well, I really like it. I mean, it gives me a great view of the road and the trail. It allows me to have a very confident approach towards my riding, be it on the road, or off the road. Now that we're talking of the road, well, because this entire area is narrow, it's easy to hold on to the fuel tank. This is the handlebar, but again, as you can see, the handlebar is tilted towards the rider, but there is an option to make it off-road friendly by changing the position of the risers. But I have ridden this motorcycle extensively, about 50 kilometers off-road. I can tell you this, the standing hours for someone who's 6 or 6'2", it's decently comfortable. For the pillion seat, where it's not as big as a rider seat for obvious reasons, but it provides decent amount of comfort. Well, I'm too big for this rear seat, but this is how it looks. Now, for the first time in the segment, there is a new motorcycle that gives you the option to adjust the seat and also have various seat options, and that is the new Himalayan 452. Now, the bike comes with 2 seat options. One, which is the lowest saddle height of 805 mm. That seat option, if you buy that seat, you can increase the seat to about 825 mm. The seat that you see here is the standard height is 825 mm, and it can be increased to 845 mm, which is this particular configuration. I'm a tall guy, so I wanted to sit little higher so that I get better view of the road, as well as my overall seating triangle becomes slightly more comfortable. Now, before I tell you how the bike performed in this Himalayan ranges, I'm going to tell you the basic details, the technical specs of this engine. Now, this is a brand new engine. It is a single cylinder liquid cooled 452cc engine. It gets a DOSC 4-valve setup. Power figures, it makes about 40 bhp at 8000 rpm and 40 newton meters of maximum torque at 5500 rpm. Even the gearbox, the 6-speed gearbox, is brand new. Now, there are 2 interesting details that you should know about the motorcycle. Obviously, these are claimed figures. The claimed top speed of the Himalayan is at 150 plus. Royal Enfield didn't say if it's 151 or 160 or 170. All they mentioned it was 150 plus. And the fuel efficiency, the WMTC claimed fuel efficiency figure for the new Himalayan is 28 km to a liter, and with a fuel tank of 17 liters, the bike can be seen doing about 450 plus kilometers in a single tank fuel.
Let's start with the engine first, because this new 452cc single cylinder motor is Royal Enfield's first ever liquid cooled engine, and this means this could provide a whole new Royal Enfield experience, and to be honest, it did. But this motor, which makes about 40 bhp at 8000 rpm and 40 newton meters at 5000 rpm, could only produce around 28 to 29 bhp, and that is due to the high altitude of the testing grounds. But even with these limitations, I can talk a lot about this engine, and the first one I will touch upon is the refinement. This engine feels and sounds relatively smooth. Unlike the Himalayan 411, this one doesn't have that crude noise, and to be honest, the overall NVH is so much under control. Regarding the overall performance, the Himalayan 452 lacked the low-end performance character of the 411. Now, till 2500 RPM, the motorcycle feels a bit boring, but the Royal Enfield team assured us that the drop in performance is due to the altitude. At the sea level, there's a strong torque surge post 1500 RPM, and that is why I barely use the eco mode, because in the first 4 gear, the performance is hugely subtle, suited only for the city roads. But the performance mode allowed me to do some good speeds. A lot of time I was riding above 100 km per hour, and to be honest, even at 120 km per hour, the Himalayan felt at home. The vibes are minimal, the overall comfort is at a reasonable level, and the motorcycle feels solid and smooth. I think 120 km per hour could be the bike's comfortable touring speed on the Indian highways, but we can only confirm this when we test the bike once we get it for multiple days in Mumbai. The Himalayan 411 has always been known for its extremely good off-roading performance, but this time around, this new model performs exceedingly well on the road. The roads of the Himalayas allowed me to push this bike to its road limits, and every time it put a big smile on my face. Even with that 21-inch front wheel, the bike went through some of the fastest corners I have ever been on effortlessly. The overall balance of the motorcycle is on point, bringing in a sense of confidence and stability. With these aspects in place, the new Himalayan was scraping pegs, something I have never done on an ADV. And a lot of credit goes to these new Seat grip tires. Even with the single-digit ambient temperature, the tires were grippy, and it could let the rider push the bike a bit more. The routes closer to the Atal tunnel had a lot of bumpy corners, but the suspension was tuned so well that I could take some of these corners at some high speed. Some mid-corner changes were made, and each time the motorcycle performed with utmost confidence. When it comes to off-road, the Himalayan 452 has impressive specs. The ground clearance stands at 230 mm, and the front fork has a travel of 200 mm, and so does the rear. There's a 21-inch front wheel with an option to choose a tubeless spoke wheels, which will eventually get approved, and there's also a 17-inch at the back. All these aspects have made this adventure motorcycle a serious off-roader. Be it over small rocks or medium-sized boulders, the Himalayan crossed all of it quickly. I was super impressed with how the ground clearance allowed me to take the bike to some of the most extreme sections of the Chenab riverbed. In fact, the motorcycle is so well engineered that even with the hours of serious off-roading, it didn't do any unnecessary drama or felt unsettled. Even at some high-speed dirt patches, the bike behaved exceptionally well, and with switchable ABS at the back, you have the freedom to look the coolest with the rear sliding out. I feel the brakes on the Himalayan needed a bit more work, both at the front and the back. While there was a very little feel on the front lever while braking from high speed, the rear brake had very little play. This resulted into unnecessary braking. Plus, while riding with enduro boots, the lack of decent play made me touch the brakes all the time.
It's time to give you the first impression verdict of the new Himalayan 450. Now, before I do that, you need to know two things. Firstly, I tested this bike for almost 350 kilometers over 2 days, out of which 70% was on the road and 30% was off the road. But the off-road conditions we rode in were extremely challenging. The second thing you should know is the media ride started from Manali, which is about 8,000 feet above sea level, and we had a chance to ride to almost 11,000 feet. And because of that, we really didn't have the entire 40 bhp of power to play with. Royal Enfield claims that, because of the altitude, we had almost 25 to 30% less power, which comes to around 28 to 29 bhp. As a result of this, I won't be able to tell you the 100% performance aspect of this motorcycle, because 40 bhp is a lot of power and 30% lesser power that we're getting in the Himalayas. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. So we will give you an entire proper performance review when we get this bike back in Bombay for multiple days. Now, having said that, the new Himalayan 452 checks a lot of right boxes. It looks damn nice in person. It has an extremely good road presence, and in fact, when you are behind the handlebar, when you're sitting on that saddle, it makes you feel that you're sitting on a motorcycle that doesn't belong to a 450cc segment. It belongs to a higher, maybe a 650cc segment. Royal Enfield has done a very good job when it comes to the overall comfort of the motorcycle, and the credit goes to three things. First thing is obviously the seating triangle, extremely comfortable. I was very happy with it. I have spent multiple hours, almost 5 to 6 hours on it continuously, and there were barely any fatigue. Second thing is the seat. It is wide, it has a lot of space to move around, and the way the foam has been cushioned, I'm very, very happy with it. But the most impressive aspect of the overall comfort is the ride quality of the new Himalayan. I was really, really happy with it. And to be honest, I don't remember the last time I rode a motorcycle that had such extremely good ride setup. And to be honest, I mean, it's a non-adjustable suspension, right? I'm just trying to remember, but sorry, I'm not able to do it. Now, there are three things that I didn't really like about this motorcycle. Firstly, there are no handguards. I think Royal should have given the motorcycle handguards and standard and not made it a part of the GMA accessories. The second thing I didn't like is the rear brake lever. I mean, look at the plate. There is barely any play on it. And to be honest, when you're riding off-road with the enduro boots, I kept on hitting the brake every single time, and that really, that kind of took away some of my off-road experience. The third thing that I didn't really like is Royal Enfield is not providing the tubeless cross-spoke wheels at the time of the launch. I think a motorcycle like this should have that since day one of the launch, and we have been told that it will come later on, but there is no timeline for it. But I really wish they got that at the time of the launch. Like I mentioned during the video, Royal Enfield has done a good job with the performance and kind of killed it with the overall handling aspect of the motorcycle. And to be honest, I don't really remember the last time I had so much fun on an adventure motorcycle in some twisties. So great work there. And now when it comes to the overall specs, the features and electronics, again, the company has done a good job with the riding modes, the TFN instrument cluster, and the kind of details it has. And especially, it also has access to the smartphone application. I mean, as an overall package, this motorcycle looks really, really good. Sadly, we don't know the pricing yet. And as a result of that, I can't tell you right now whether the new Himalayan 452 will be a value for money motorcycle. But all I can tell you is if you're in the market for a motorcycle that can do an everyday job, if you want to go touring, if you want to go ADV riding and you're riding, but at the same time you need a lot of features, you need a motorcycle that is highly aspirational, you should definitely consider the new Himalayan 452.